And what are we like about an hour, Maribon, do you think?
Yeah, around there. Oh, we're live
Okay.
now. Well, whenever you have to leave, Brady. So, hello,
No,
everybody. I
we're all
think we
good.
are live. Let me just click here to make sure and say hello, everybody, if you can see us. But welcome to this live session. Really excited to have Coach Brady Hiete from Daily Tennis Lesson, and we're really looking forward to checking out, tennis. Tennis technique, in particular, forehand. So we're going to have some user submitted or Summit audience submitted clips, and then I'll also pull up a fantastic forehand from somebody that might look familiar after you see who's on the screen here. And we'll go through that. We actually might do that first, actually. So, Brady,
Cool.
first off, hello to you. How's everything going?
Maribon, I'm doing well. I actually haven't picked up a tennis racket in about 3.5 weeks because I had my left hip fully replaced at the end of March. So on the mend. The last couple weeks were a little trying, but the body's starting to feel really good. So I'm probably going to get a couple hours on court later this week, and just keep progressing every day. But otherwise, all in all, I had some time with my family, and things are good.
Good, awesome, Brady. Well, I'm really glad to hear that, and yeah, best wishes on the recovery. So before we start
Thank
off,
you.
I do. Oh yeah, anytime, Brady. Before we start off, I do just want to thank Slinger Bag, which is powering the summit. I really appreciate their support, and I have their ball machine, and I love it, and I use it a lot. It's been especially helpful these days, with the current situation going on. So I highly recommend it. It functions great. So big thanks again to Slinger Bag. But Brady, so I'll launch in with a couple fundamental forehand questions, and then I'll bring up a video that we can look at to see what to do on the forehand, and then I'll bring up a few clips to analyze from the audience. So first off,
Perfect.
Brady, as I already alluded to, what are a couple of the biggest forehand fundamentals, especially those that you may be seeing that are lacking in maybe the 3-0 to 4-5 community of players?
Yeah, good question. Right off the bat, I just worked a couple videos with my partner Mark. It's just this lack of lag. Lag tends to be the big element in the forehand that keeps that 3-0, 3-5 level from starting to see the ball really explode off the racket. It's a as you play more and more tennis, it's something you really don't probably even think about when you're hitting the ball. But as a beginner to more intermediate player, the thought about leaving the racket head behind, that swinging hand as you start pulling the racket towards the ball and delaying letting the strings go into the tennis ball. So many people just have that urgency at the beginner level to put the strings on the tennis ball. And so the racket moves next to the hand, and you lose all of that explosive force that comes with leaving the racket head behind or lagging it behind that swinging hand. And so that's a feeling. It's tough sometimes to coach because it's a feeling that the player has to get used to, and it's a big time trust factor, I think, that you're not going to end up hitting the ball as late as you might think just because you're leaving that racket head back a little longer as you start to make that pull through. So I'd say lag number one, and probably a close second is really engaging the lower body and the midsection to really help produce the swing. It's really easy, I think, to feel a racket in your hand at that 3-0, 3-5 level and think, okay, well, I got to take my arm in this racket to the tennis ball, leaving the lower body, out of the motion, so to speak, and losing all that ground force. The start of the kinetic chain comes all the way up from the ground, through the legs, up into your hips. And I'd say that feeling of athleticism that you need to incorporate with the entire body, not just the upper body, is keeping some of these 3-0, 3-5 players from starting to see better results on the forehand.
Yeah, I love it, Brady. I mean, a lot of club level players, they like you said, they really forget to engage, that lower body, that core.
Yeah.
It's really about the using the full body, the kinetic chain. And we also have a great presentation coming up tomorrow on some drills to help you engage the kinetic chain. So really love it there. And yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to a bunch of people who are saying hi here: Millie, Sparks, Minglai, Sanjeev. J Look, Nia, LG, Mark. So, welcome to all of you. So, Mark, if it's cool with you, I want to bring up this video that I plucked out of here, and I will share the screen in a second, and then we'll get to look at it. And it's going to be a familiar face, Brady. Um, this is the
There he
wrong
is.
screen. Oh yeah, that is the right screen. Oh, well,
No,
let's
we're
just
gonna
do
have to
that screen.
update that pic on the left, by the way. Not the best hair day over there.
We can do that immediately after this call if you'd like, Brady. But so I
Love
have
it.
this dapper young chap who I wish I had his height,
Yeah.
and but such is life. So let's take a look here, and I'm going to try to play this very slowly, and let's see the elements. So I guess first off, though, let me ask you about this. This stance that you're in. The hand on the racket. We don't always see this with amateur players. So why is this stance right here with the hand on the left hand on the throat important?
Yeah. So great question. Obviously when you initiate this swing, you're face on to the other side of the court, getting that upper body rotation on the forehand side. If that left hand is not pushing that racket out into your turn, a lot of times that hand comes off, it separates early, and the entire left side of my body might kind of get stuck or remain out where it is currently. And at that point, with the racket going back on its own, we're back into this idea that I'm swinging really with just my arm and my hand. And we want that coil feeling. We want that upper body to really turn off the lower body. And so that left hand, and Federer's our favorite guy with this move because he makes such a pronounced push. It seems like it's almost like his racket, weighs 5 pounds, and his left hand has to push it over there to the right, and that's where you're going to get that upper body turn. So what I love for some of these more beginner players, you can kind of barely see that LA Dodgers logo on the front of my shirt. And if that left hand does a great job pushing the racket into the set position, you're going to see that LA logo come straight at your screen here. And I feel like if that left hand drops off, doesn't do its job, we might not see a clear picture of the logo on that shirt. So that's always a good thought for most players is, whether you have a logo or not, just pretend something's on the front of that shirt and turn it away from your opponent. And the left hand is a big producer of that.
Yeah, I love that visual that you're giving us. I think that really illuminates the solution there to the proper unit turn. So let's go. I believe this is slow-mo, so let's go bit by bit and see here. Okay. So now, question: why are you bringing the racket up as opposed to, down? Like, because sometimes we see players who just bring it straight down. I think it's becoming a little less common these days, but we still see it sometimes. So, what are your thoughts on the proper, racket path?
Yeah. So I mean, generally, I always start with the tip of the racket more in an up position, even in my ready position. Obviously, incorporating a loop, hopefully, even for players out there that maybe aren't utilizing a loop in their forehand, they're aware of the term, they're aware of the idea. And, I think everybody can see in that position when the racket head is up and I'm not going to drop it into that slot down closer to hip height where I'm hopefully going to make contact, I'm going to be bringing a lot more momentum from top to bottom than if I go straight back, straight through. And for me, a lot of times the straight back, straight through is okay if you're just new to the game and you got to get the feeling of swinging, Yeah, so you can see once I drop into that slot, you are much closer to waist high. So if I don't utilize that loop and I go straight to this spot here, I'm likely to have a very stagnant kind of stop-start motion, which isn't going to generate me a very big forehand. Contact might be okay, and like I said, as a really new tennis player, if you spend a little time going straight back, straight through just to feel that waist high contact, totally okay. But you don't want to spend much time as a tennis player without starting to incorporate the loop. I take players from a young age, and within 2 to 3 lessons, once they get the feeling of swinging through about hip high, we start utilizing that loop, because I'm going to generate so much more momentum coming from that circle position. Now, this is a good way for a lot of you out there to visualize it. I'm going to draw a C shape with my racket, almost as if I had a piece of chalk in my hand instead of the racket. I'm going to draw that C shape, and in that top position, very important, everybody, that you want to maintain the height in that loop until you're ready to swing. It doesn't make a lot of sense to roll that loop over and down too quickly. At that point, we might as well take it straight back. So the big takeaway here is start to incorporate the loop so that you generate more pace, more heaviness coming into the ball. It's just going to feel more athletic too. I love players that maybe come out onto the tennis court and haven't had a lot of maybe athletic prowess in their life. I want them feeling like an athlete, not just a tennis player. To me, that's a big difference.
Yeah, lovely points here. And, it's very interesting. I filmed some content on ground strokes with Jan Azu, actually a bunch of strokes. And, in using the device that he created, Sweet Spotter, you find that your wrist is actually a lot more comfortable of a position, like when we're swinging in that manner and the wrist is actually upright, like if it's stuck in like a more horizontal position, I guess you'll actually find that it's more pressure on the wrist. So I thought that was interesting too. But yeah, this is what I do as well. That C loop, bring it up high, and like Brady said, we don't want to prematurely swing down, because then that's gonna just kill the momentum, the easy momentum that we're creating with this C here. So Brady, I probably should have started with this, but in looking at this picture here, I clearly see your hand on the racket, on the grip. So just for people out there, I think we actually got a question about grips. What grip would you suggest that most players use on the forehand, and then any caveats to that?
Yeah, so great. Grips are, there might not be anything more important in tennis than holding the racket correctly. And the cool thing about the forehand, we can work in and out of different grips. Look, I'm a fan of kind of the Eastern forehand grip. My favorite forehands ever in the history of the pro game have been more of an Eastern forehand. And that's not to say that I don't respect guys that get way over and approach that full Western. I love a great semi-Western. I'm a huge fan of. I love the ability to move the ball off the racket with a ton of pace. And obviously the Eastern forehand for me still allows plenty of spin. I feel like I can get a great amount of top spin when I want to, especially let's say I modify the finish and throw a little buggy whip up. But I feel like in the Eastern, for me personally, I can move the ball a little bit flatter off my racket, which in turn is just going to be a little more ball speed. And that's my style of play. I probably, for most club level players, because at the 3.035 level, it can be so easy to get caught late and therefore almost undercut the ball. I move most, of those beginner to intermediate players to a semi-Western to really make sure they don't have anything but a chance to hit some topspin. You just don't want to see that ball get get sliced under on the forehand side really ever. And so by going a little farther over to that semi-Western with a 3-0, 3-5 player, it's going to translate to a pretty effortless amount of topspin. But I'm between that Eastern and semi. I'm not a huge Eastern. To me, there's just too many limitations. Low balls tend to be very difficult. You tend to, the rallies tend to go a little longer than I prefer. Not to say that amount of topspin's a bad thing, but I'd fall between Eastern and semi-Western for sure.
Yeah, great thoughts there, Brady. Appreciate that. And yeah, for sure. I mean, at one point I gravitated towards a Western, and I really found that, especially when stretched out wide or low balls, it was extremely difficult to hit those back, with any success. It was
and it just a lot of times the shallowness of the ball that you hit, I mean, it can spin so much, but even with a ton of RPMs on the ball, if it lands inside your opponent's service line, it's still, even with a ton of kick up, not going to get above their shoulder. So the ability to hit that amount of spin out of semi-Western and still get depth, I think is a really kind of masterclass skill. And unless you're able to do that, I don't think full Western is really the route for most people.
Gotcha, Brady. Awesome. We got quite a few questions just in the last couple of minutes here, so let's go to this one. Even though it's slightly more advanced, I just want to, in the progression. So this question, which I don't know if you can see. Oh, wait, that's not the right one. Yeah, what is the ideal strike zone? So I'm going to advance the video a bit. We'll get to the strike zone, and then we'll talk about it. So let's see how accurate we can get it here. Sorry. Oh, is it not playing anymore? Oh. Well, anyway, while I get it to the strike zone, what are your thoughts on the ideal strike zone?
Okay, so the ideal strike zone to me is just above waist high. And
okay.
The modern game, I mean, the different grips, the different court positions, you could see I'm getting a fed ball hit at me. I think anybody in this conversation right now with the ball that was coming in from Mark's racket would be where I am. If he started to feed it heavier and I backed off a little more like most people would, the strike zone's definitely been expanding vertically in the past 5 to 10 years. Meaning, if I back off against a little heavier ball and I'm making contact at shoulder height, I don't see any issue with that. Once I'm above my shoulder, that's a little bit of a problem. And if I start getting that ball down below my knees, I'm having to play a little more of a defensive, spinnier shot. But if I had my druthers, if somebody just dropped a ball for me and said, okay, I want your best forehand, I'd prefer a ball just slightly above waist high. The beauty of that for me, because I'm tall, is a little bit above my waist. I already have some net clearance built in, which is, as you said, a little bit unfair in my book for me, but it is what it is. For most players out there, I think the goal with the footwork, timing that into your strike zone, it should be just about waist high to somewhere around your rib cage, but don't freak out if you're making contact with a lot of shots around your shoulder.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Brady. Like I said, a ton of questions here, some real good ones. So this one, which is on the screen here now, from Yusuf. So can we discuss breaks in the kinetic chain and then how to thrust the hip before the torso and then the arm? So any thoughts on that?
So if I'm understanding that correctly, Yusuf's having a break in the kinetic chain, meaning we're mistiming something, correct?
Yeah, I think he's specifically asking about how to thrust the hip before the torso and then the arm. So kind of that really a body lag that we're, Yeah.
So look, I mean, that's initially, I think what we started with today was when I was talking about lagging that racket back, the key here is that I start to let the upper body open back up to the court. And you can see the racket head's still back. I'm nowhere near contact yet. And that unit turn that I had where I'm facing directly down the baseline, I've recovered this court. So to me, it's a commitment idea. It's even if you feel like you might hit a shot or might be a little bit mistimed, once you make a decision to hit the ball, don't second guess powering through that turn. That's really important. I mean, you see the top pros in the world hit some shots, miss some shots, but what are they always doing? They're committing to a full swing, and that's really important. Like I have two daughters that are playing softball. They're starting to become good hitters, and that's you see this with sports where you're hitting a ball. You can second guess. Oh, I think I was a little bit late here. Let me try to recover a better position. Things are going to go wrong in a hurry if once you start, you try to stop and adjust. So I'd say the big key, and that's, the kinetic chain, there's 7 links to it, and it should happen, obviously bang, 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 bang. We don't want to piece them together. We want it to be one fluid motion. So even at the risk of mistiming a shot, we can always get better with our timing. The key with really unloading through the ball is making that turn happen without any reservation, and then just let that racket follow.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, just commit and lead with the hips and practice, and don't revert back to old inefficient techniques if you miss a couple.
Yeah,
the commitment is.
And I would say this, like, do some drop drills, hold some balls where you can focus on the feeling of the kinetic chain. But once you're in match play, you're in point play, you're out rallying, that's got to be a feeling. You don't want to be setting back for a forehand and starting to think about, okay, I'm going to push off here, I'm going to open my hips here. It's just too much going on in your head. So the key is practicing that feeling with a ball that's pretty stationary, not having to worry about the result of the shot, getting that feeling, that muscle memory going through your body. But then once you step on the court, trust it and just go with it. Put the thought more into where you're going to hit the ball, not this idea of having 7 elements of a chain, because your brain's going to overload. It's going to be too tough.
Yeah, 100%. So another one for you, Brady. This is a good one from Steven, which is on the screen now. I have students who pull the ball from right to left and don't get the ball going forward. How do you fix this problem? Are they generally too close to the ball or just not hitting through the ball?
Right. I mean, there could be a couple things going on there. One, I think a lot of us, as we're trying to shape the tennis ball with the forehand a little more, we have the idea that we're meant to hit more to the outside edge of the ball. Meaning if the tennis ball were a clock in this position, I'm staring at it. I'd like my strings on a standard cross-court forehand to hit that ball at about 4 o'clock, coming underneath it, hitting slightly around it. So what I think happens to a lot of players, at least that I see, and this might be what Steven's dealing with, is the idea in a player's head to go to the outside edge in this position now might make me a little overly risky, and we end up snapping to the point where we're turning over on the ball from right to left more. And what you want to remember is, as I enter into that tennis ball at 4 o'clock, the majority of my swing right after contact is still moving out towards the middle of the tennis court. I'm not swinging in a fashion where I'm trying to hook the ball. The contact's going to take care of the spin out there on the right edge, but the stroke itself needs to be pulling more vertically through the tennis court. And then that finish that's going to naturally end up on your left side is doing just that. It's naturally going to get there because of the rotation in the body. So trust that the racket's going to get to the left. Have your kids focus more on this linear vertical swing, pulling from the back fence to the fence that's out on the other side of the court, while making contact slightly on the right edge of the ball.
Love it. Thank you, Brady, for that.
Yeah.
Let's see, just a ton of questions. There's one from Nia on the serve, which Nia, just come to some of the live streams on the serve so we can talk about that. We'll just stick to the forehands if you don't mind today. Although I just say continental or variation. All right, so Sparks Guy. This is an interesting question that got some thumbs up, I guess. So Sparks Guy is asking, does being attack-minded and leaning in promote engagement of the lower body, or can that potentially rush the chain of events within the swing? What do you think about that?
Being attack-minded and leaning in. So, look, the leaning in is kind of what grabs me there. You can see my chest is up. I think what I'm seeing here, kind of taking away from this, is if I start to lean my shoulders out over my hips too much, there's going to be a break in the chain. So it's really important as you drive from that outside leg back to that inside leg, not to hurl your upper body forward too much, because you're actually going to end up hitting the ball a little bit late. So drive up and keep your chest. I'm staying, I like describing that kind of staying behind the tennis ball. The head stays really nice and still. The upper body stays pretty vertical. And that's going to leave a lot of room for the racket to move out in front of me. That leaning forward idea tends to tuck the racket back and it can get stuck. Engagement in the lower body, or it can potentially rush the chain of events. Yeah, it's just, I keep this simple. Really, really work on driving up. Keep yourself behind the ball, and I don't think you're going to feel that the chain of events gets rushed in that manner.
Love it. Thank you for that, Brady.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else do we have? Actually, let's go back to the video, or well, we have it on here, but one other thought that I have is sometimes players, they get a little confused on what stance to be using for forehands, and obviously that's going to vary, as you'll probably talk about. So what are your thoughts on the current stance here? Why are we using this stance, and then how may it vary, and how should we approach it for maybe other balls?
Yeah, absolutely, good question. Okay, so there's a lot here. The first would be this. I always, especially if we're looking at a 3-0, 3-5 player, and my conversation about athleticism will come up, I'll take a player and I will have them go a little more traditional. I'll have them step in with their left foot towards the ball. I'm obviously open stance here, but I'll have them step in, and I'll have them try to really exaggerate the hip and shoulder turn into the follow-through position, and have them hold the finish. And generally, if I've just dropped the ball, they'll say, wow, that felt really good. And then I'll set them open stance, and I'll drop the same ball, and I'll say, hey, exaggerate that follow-through position, really turn out. And generally, for the most part, I'd say 98% of people feel more athletic, because the resistance in that hip and shoulder turn is more apparent when you step in with your left foot. It's harder on your body to make an exaggerated rotational move compared to being open stance. And that's why open stance to me is so important to use on a majority of forehands, is because we are trying to hit the ball bigger, and that comes with a faster, more athletic turn. And so it's just easier on that lower back. It's easier on your midsection. More takeaways. As I get wider outside the middle of the court, it saves me time. You want to remember that time is so important in tennis. So if I drop a ball to you and say, okay, I want you to step in with your left foot and then hold your turn, and then I drop a ball and I say, all right, just push off from your right leg to your left leg, that action occurs quicker. And so by moving to the outside of the court and utilizing open stance, you are saving yourself time. And as we all know, the game is just getting faster and faster. We're seeing ground strokes at the pro level get hit in the triple digit mile per hour range now. We need to save ourselves some time. Now, with that being said, you watch a warm up of Roger Federer when he's in the middle of the court, and he will turn and step into a lot of balls from the center of the court, which I do as well. I like that feeling when I'm trying to just hit a straightaway ball. I'm not trying to do too much damage to my opponent, and I need that ball to move accurately up the middle of the court. I feel like it's easier to do with a step in forehand. And take that when you go maybe out wide once in a while and you're going to hit a down the line passing shot. We all know how dicey a down the line pass can get because you have a higher net. You see the alley right there. The target feels pretty narrow. A lot of times if you're able to set up and have time to do it, stepping in with your lead foot can keep the ball on a more accurate straightaway trajectory. But as we know, so often we're trying to work with angles. We want to move our opponent. We don't want to keep them in the middle of the court. So open stance with the bigger turn, the faster turn, the more athletic turn allows us to work the ball off the tennis court more, therefore moving our opponent. So I'm probably a 80-20, 90-10 guy in terms of open stance to step in traditional forehand.
Gotcha. Love it, Brady. So I do want to get to the player submitted videos. But while we get to that, I do want to ask Ed's question, which is, we're blocking it now. Let me move it. What is the key to racket head speed on the forehand?
All right, pretty simple. It's how fast you can make that turn and how much lag that you can have leaving that racket head behind, that arm leading forward. And that's a great thing to practice, Ed, without a tennis ball. Shadow swings, I think, are an excellent way to start to generate more and more racket speed, because you don't have to worry about hitting the ball. As we know, that can get so in our heads that we're trying to hit the ball in the court, and we can resist this feeling of wanting to swing fast and athletically. So I would go out, if you feel like you're lacking significant racket speed, stand in the back of the court and do 3 sets of 10 where you are loading your legs as big as you can, almost into a jumping forehand, and just letting the racket move through the air to the point where you hear a nice whoosh of air go through your strings. It's very common that the first couple times you try that, you don't hear anything. And as you become aware that your strings can make noise as they go through the air, the faster you're swinging, it's a really good little trigger to hey, how loud can I get this sound? And your body will naturally start to push harder, move faster, and you'll kind of naturally start lagging the racket more. And once you have that feeling down, and again, be careful, you don't need to hit every forehand as hard as you can. But if you feel like you're starting to generate significant racket speed without the ball, then you go out and start to incorporate that when you can, when you think it's smart.
Awesome. Thanks, Brady. Great information,
Yeah.
as always. So now I'm going to share the screen again. So we have a forehand video from Janet. Let's try to get that going here. Okay, I think it looks good. So let me play this video, Brady, and then tell me what types of thoughts you have, good and bad, to improve upon. I'll start it off right now. I'll play it at full speed now, and then we can slow down later. So any preliminary thoughts?
All right, let's go one more.
Sure. You want to play it again?
Okay, yeah, so that's good. All right, so let's start with the split step, reacting to the ball nice and early. Nice little turn. The grip to me is a little bit iffy. Go ahead and bring it back if you would, Maribon. Leave it there. I'm almost feeling like the racket head wants to be. There's a good position. Keep bringing it back for me. There's a little bit of an opening back here, right in there. I'd like to see maybe the grip get a quarter turned over so those strings are shut down a little more. And
Gotcha.
then as you're coming through the ball, it's Janet, correct?
Yeah, Janet, right.
Janet could use a ton more lag. So what we're going to see here is this arm and racket move right side by side. So Janet's a prime candidate. Nice little flip finish though. Janet, you are a prime candidate for being a little more patient, starting to allow the butt cap of the racket. What you want to feel is that player who's in the orange shorts on the other side. After you drop the racket down into the slot, right in, yeah, you're just slightly open. I want you to get your grip a little more shut. But right now, the butt cap of your racket is pointing to the ball. And I want you to start to pull the butt cap towards that hitter that's on the other side of the court rather than casting. You're almost like a fisherman out here. You're casting your racket out to the side. And so as that racket and your arm are moving all as one piece the whole way through, this was our opening convo, you're losing a ton of speed through the ball. And you're ultimately not, I mean, I think you're going to be consistent here. You're just not going to do a ton of damage. So start pulling that butt cap of the racket forward. That's going to move a significant distance before you're going to allow yourself to let the strings end up taking over and getting out to the ball. And then in terms of the follow through, and this is so common. It's like right now you're ready to get back to the middle of the court.
Yeah.
I want you starting to be a little more patient in your finish. You haven't even posted up on this left side, that knee on the left. I want you hitting a couple swings where you actually post up and that left side is straight. We want this right heel rotated all the way around. So whatever the logo on the outside of your right shoe is, I want our guy in orange over there to have a good, clear picture. See, that foot's already moving. Keep rotating that and stand up into your left side. Ultimately, be more patient with your follow through. You're hitting too many shots where you're up and out and back and looking for the next ball too soon. If you want a little more of an explosive forehand, lag that sucker through a little longer and exaggerate the finish position where you hold it and watch the ball leave your racket. Let it get out onto the other side of the court before you're bouncing back and resetting for the next shot.
Beautiful. Great
so
stuff there.
Little slight grip change, little more lag, which those shadow swings can help you with, and be a little more patient all the way into that follow through position.
Perfect. Any thoughts?
There's a lot of good stuff here. You could have a really big forehand going in a short amount of time, I think.
Yeah, love it. And
I
know you mentioned
how are we going to hit a lob in here, Janet? What's going on here?
What's that? How's she going to hit a lob?
How's she going to hit a lob? Isn't that ceiling super low?
Oh, yeah. It's super low. It's just what it looks like to me too. Yeah.
I haven't seen an indoor court since 2002. So count me out.
Oh, wow. That's the California life, eh? That
is the California life.
Great. So I'm going to put it back on us real quick and then reset with another video if I can figure out the screen here. Okay, good. Let's see if we have any other questions. Oh, we had a question on how to develop rhythm. So obviously, as they say here, rhythm is important. Do you have a tip or trick to get better in rhythm?
Make more balls. I would a lot of times rhythm comes from making a lot of balls. If rallies are short, let's say you go out with 2 cans of balls, You have a couple rallies that are 2, 3 shots long. You go pick up some tennis balls, you come back, you're not hitting enough shots. So we can give another little nod to slinger bag, go get your machine, stand back on the court a little bit more. I think a lot of times as we get up near the baseline, we're looking to attack, obviously. So if we need to make some more shots to get better rhythm, do it from a position where you don't have the expectation that you're going to hit a winning shot or hit a shot that your opponent is going to struggle with. Play 6, 8, 10 feet behind the baseline. Get a hitting partner who will do a half an hour where there's no point play. Get some cross-court rallies going where you section off the tennis court, therefore making your target smaller. I think that's a huge key to rhythm is do not give yourself too much tennis court to hit into because it's a really good way to miss your spots big. So cross-court rallies, deepen your position, slow your ball down a little bit, and just make more tennis balls. That's probably the biggest thing I see when we got some really good college teams here in Southern California. I got some exposure to, and you look at a great college tennis player that doesn't end up having a pro career, and it's like, well, how is this guy not top 100 in the world? And then you watch how many more balls the pros are making in these big rallies, and that is the difference to me. So at the club level, where the tennis ball generally is not coming in with a ton of pressure on your game, you've got to lock into this idea of getting more consistent and just making more shots.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. So, great stuff, Brady. Let's go to this other video I have to share from Gordon. Very enthusiastic tennis player.
Cool
so
looking court, pretty unique court over there.
Pretty sweet in England. So let's play this, and I might have to rewind. Let's play it once in full, and let me know what you think. Oh, okay. So I think there were just a couple of strokes. So let me play it once more for you. So it seems like some similar advice for a couple of those, for at least a couple elements. But what are your thoughts
This is Gordon, right?
Yeah, Gordon's forehand.
Okay, so Gordon, there was a pro player back in the 90s named Marc Rosset, and he came out of Switzerland, and he went high with that elbow. I tried it for a little while. It's definitely a variation on the loop, going high with that elbow. I don't dislike it. What I don't think's matching up, because that swing takes a while. Your relationship to the baseline is not working well with how your loop is going. You need more space from the ball to execute a swing with that loop. So I would pull you back, keep playing with that high elbow, because you're gonna end up having some nice shape to the ball doing that, but you need more space to do it. So back off, and then you'll notice from that position, what I saw, the contact's like right next to your body.
Yeah.
So this is going to allow you time and space. Look at how late that is. So rather than modify the backswing and have to go shorter, just pull yourself away, and you can see you're kind of stuck between your feet here. You haven't gotten over to your left side because there's just no room for it. So I think that swing could be really sweet, especially because I just heard your strings. Your racket's strung at like 31 pounds. So you could be launching this ball, but just back off the baseline, let the ball come down to you a little more, and complete that weight transfer from outside to inside, and I think you're on your way, my man.
Backhand. Love it. Yeah, I really appreciate how you can, adapt, the technical principles to different styles. There's not necessarily always a one size fits all, but there are these common fundamentals that we need in the strokes.
I mean, the traditional loop, like with the tip of the racket up, I mean, we could play around with that, but Gordon's a little bit older. A lot of times a full stroke change isn't in the cards for everybody. And I mean, Mark Rosset won the gold medal in 92. He wasn't so crowded to the ball like this. So I just want you to have more space to finish these swings and get contact a little more out in front of you.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Brady. So let me get one more clip on here. This is actually from a video I did from Tennis Troll, but we've got permission to use their footage, so I just want to see what you think on this forehand. This is a little bit of a higher level forehand, so let me get this on the screen for you. Oops. Player's name is Subash. You see me with these beautiful glasses here. But let's see. So I think this is...
Oh, yeah.
So let me, let me try to play this again.
So Subash is in orange here.
Yeah, he's in orange here. Yep.
And I think a full Western grip.
Yeah. Let me see if I can get the slow playing speed here, because I know it's kind of hard to...
Okay.
Yeah, give me 1 second here. So if we can try that again. Yeah. So I'll just keep trying to replay that for you. So the ball comes in. We got Subash coming. He has to move up a little bit. And that's what he's producing. So based on that type of ball, I mean,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for that particular shot?
Yeah, see, this is where when I've broken down the grips for the forehand and the pros and cons of each grip, the low ball with the full Western grip, he'd have to hook a really nice angle here, because this thing you can see how it just balloons up there.
Yeah.
If I'm the guy on the other side of the court and I see him hitting that shot, I'm closing, because his ball has to go so high over the net, and I just come in and take it out of the air. So with that being said, so that he doesn't have to do a full grip overhaul, this might be a really good time for a guy in full Western to actually go to Continental and hit a little chip up the line. It looks like you guys are doing cross-court drills anyways, though. But if this were point play, strategy-wise...
Sorry, Brady.
Is it point play?
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's point play, if Subash can roll that angle more out of that position, which, could be tough. He might have to go buggy whip here. I might also get out of that grip, go to Continental. I don't know how his net game is, but I might chip that up the line and follow that ball straight in, because it's hard to put enough sting on that shorter low ball with that grip. And that's something where if you're getting enough time on court, you can play around with, little grip modifications for certain shots. Let's say he sticks to full Western for most of his groundies. It can't hurt to have somebody feed you balls in that spot and just try something between a semi-Western and an Eastern grip, and see if you can just pull it off situationally without having to use it, on every other forehand you swing. But this is the ball that I think is just really brutal, because it just seems so easy for the guy on the other side to beat that ball up.
Yeah, thanks for that, Brady. And when I did this video here, I kind of analyzed some points. I felt like it just generally, and probably on this point too, that, kind of faster, more aggressive footwork would help with getting a higher ball.
Yeah, I agree. A little skip step approach here.
Yeah.
Something where he gets his weight in behind that shot, because as we know, when we overspin a tennis ball, which that has to be, and you don't get full production out of your weight transfer and aren't able to drive it really, a ton of spin doesn't really mean much without weight behind it. We want that heaviness to it, right? So skipping himself in a little left-footed hop forward might be the play if we don't want to, change the grip up. or hit a chip approach there.
Gotcha. Good stuff, Brady. So let me just take us back here. I think we're on. So let's see if, if there's a couple more questions that we can answer. Let's see. Let's see. And if you see any, Brady, feel free. Um, even if everyone, so from J Look, even if everyone is pushing the thought, you should end the point within 4 shots.
Even if everyone you play is pushing, the thought is you should end the ball within 4 or end the rally within 4 shots.
So I do know that, Craig O'Shaughnessy talks about how, I think the average point lasts something like 4 shots, and those are the most important
Yeah.
4 and everything. So maybe it kind of comes from there, this question. But yeah, I mean, happy to hear your thoughts on, I mean, obviously you shouldn't try to like force it, but what do you think, Brady?
Yeah, here's my thought on the pusher. Like if that's somebody you're consistently running into, the biggest takeaway number one is you don't play their game. So I would agree with this. You're not trying to win 20, 30 ball rallies against a pusher, because likely that's what they want. And now we're in this vicious cycle where we're trying to outlast somebody who does that for a living. With that being said, I think there's a patience that comes with playing a pusher. I've always told my players that see a pusher a decent amount, get used to the flight of their ball a little bit. Take a couple where you see the high floater come back off the ball. It doesn't mean you're playing defensively, but what you're trying to lock into is the speed and the height of their shot. And if you get really dialed into that by backing off and hitting a couple ground strokes just under control, the key, when you see a pusher get destroyed, people come up, they take the ball out of the air and cut down on the reaction time, and one more push comes, you're at net, and you finish it with a good overhead or a good volley. It's hard to do that right away. You serve, you close, and you haven't seen the ball in the air yet, and you don't have that ability to get used to it as well as you would from back at the baseline. So I don't think we have to have that number 4 as a totally specific number. I would say let the learning curve be backing off 1 or 2, get used to it. And then as you are really familiar with how the ball leaves the opponent's racket, okay, now it's time to step up and go take it on the rise or take it out of the air. And that should leave you playing shorter rallies, obviously.
Got it. Cool. Thanks for that, Brady. Cool. Oh, looks like I froze. That's interesting.
You did freeze a little.
Yeah, maybe we want to put you on here while I've resolved this. All right, now you're the star of the show, Brady. Let's see if we have any other questions. Oh yeah, this is an interesting one. How do you serve +1 or return +1 without a challenging weapon?
Well, I don't know if I've ever heard that question before. You develop a weapon. That's first and foremost. I don't think your style of play is not going to be serve and return +1 unless you're setting yourself up to get a weak, short second ball, obviously. So, even if that doesn't mean you start hitting the ball necessarily bigger with your serve or your return, don't forget that placement is just as effective almost always with serves and returns the way power is. So you can either go out and practice hitting the ball bigger, which should result off serves and returns of getting a weaker shot, and now we've got our +1 to attack. Or you go out and you set up cones and you put them all over the court for your serves. You put them all over the court for your returns. And as you're returning and serving with really good accuracy, you can also expect to get, set up shots with that next ball. But if that's not in the cards, if you're not practicing one or both of those ideas, then you should not be thinking that your style of play is serve and return plus ones. It's just as simple as that.
Awesome, Brady. That's great advice. So, I do want to just take a couple minutes to go through an awesome offer that I have for you, and that will support both Brady and I as well. So, I'm going to drop a link in the chat here. Let's see here, and then share my screen real quick. Let's see. Okay, great. So if you enjoyed, this session and you want to have lifetime access to this session and refer to it whenever you want, as well as all the other videos, then I really highly recommend that you get the All Access Pass. And I've just dropped a link in here that is Brady's link. And so I just want to recap briefly what you will get with the All Access Pass. And so let me take this comment off the screen real quick. So the first thing that you'll get, like I mentioned, is all the videos, so you can watch them whenever you like. As you know, right now with the free ticket, you get 48 hours access to each video. So in addition to that, we're also throwing in the audio downloads of every single summit session, which is super useful if you want to listen to any of these amazing sessions, in the car or in the shower while you're cooking. I find it very useful. So that's a huge value there, which increases it to $14.94. And then we're adding transcripts of all the summit sessions, which is taking my team, probably like over 40 hours to transcribe all the sessions, and you'll get that as well. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but you'll get transcripts of all the summit sessions using Brady's link in the chat. And then we also have added a Tennis Summit implementation worksheet for you all, which is going to help you with every single session if you use that worksheet to extract the best information possible out of each session and then take action on that, which is most important. And then you're going to have exclusive access to the Summit Facebook group as well. So it's a great community where you can ask questions, and I'll be in there, and sometimes guest coaches as well. And happy to check out what you have to say about tennis. Any questions, we'll be happy to look. And then also included in the All Access Pass package is a members only VIP live streams with myself. And again, sometimes we'll bring on some coaches to chat about tennis and help you improve as well. And then finally, we're going to have special deals and discounts from our partners and coaches. We have some deals in there that give a lot of, a large percentage off, products or coaches or coaching programs. So for only $97, you will get a huge amount of value from here. And so, like I mentioned, just use Brady's link in the chat and you'll get all that. So I just wanted to mention that because I really think it's important if you really want to improve, to be able to refer to certain sessions that you really enjoy and think can help you, instead of only having them available, just for 48 hours. So Brady, thanks for your patience. Just wanted to mention that, and just a huge value that you're going to get, especially if you enjoyed this session, which I thought was super valuable. Even just like one or two tips can really transform your game. Paying pretty much the cost of a lesson, you're getting all this amazing information. So, Brady, any final thoughts or, next action steps before we close? And maybe I'll check out the comments as well. But any final action steps that you want the audience to take?
I just want to say a thank you to you. There's a couple years now we're in that I've been doing the summit with you. I always look forward to getting on with you. I think you have a really nice way about you hosting these video chats, and would just suggest, there's so many coaches. I think you have 45 coaches on this year. That is such a wealth of knowledge that I just don't see how it's not worth everybody's while to see the value that they're getting for that $97 and hop on board, because you do a really great job with this. And I think everybody, from beginner to very advanced, there's always room to improve your tennis. And, all these different coaches, you can just kind of pick and choose, hey, this guy sounds right for me. This girl sounds right for me. And just such a cool takeaway to have all that experience come through in this one summit. So kudos to you, Mirabon.
Thanks a lot, Brady. Really kind words, and yeah, it's it's a lot of work, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
and because you created amazing programs yourself. And also one other thing too is there's links below this video to check out Brady's great work. So let's see. So there's maybe a couple questions if you have time, maybe one or two.
Yeah.
What can awesome. What can I think about when I focus on my elbow and arm? Straight, cocked, close, far. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, again, I think it's really important to make sure you don't feel your arm moving super independently from your body. It's just you want a forehand to be the total package where we're setting it with our upper body and our lower body. Obviously, yes, that arm needs to do what it needs to do to produce a nice forehand, but it's really key to make sure we don't get it in our heads that, okay, racket, tennis ball, because you tend to limit so many important elements. And this is a shot that you just watch the pros. It's like every great pro seems to have these massive forehands nowadays, and you're not seeing. And I've said this a bunch. You're not seeing these gigantic muscles on these guys. You look at Medvedev. Look how lanky this guy is. Why is he hitting a forehand 100 miles per hour? Because he is loaded up and using his entire frame with good timing and pounding the ball. So it's just key to make sure you feel your entire body working through the process of hitting a good forehand.
Yeah, 100% Brady. Can't really put it better. So cool. Let's see. Thank you, Mirabon and Brady. My first opportunity to do live tennis Q&A, most enjoyable. Super happy to hear that. Patricia, this was very helpful today. I've had trouble with the body mechanics and getting power. Yeah, thanks so much for the comments. And look, I mean, Brady is one of the best coaches in the world, and that's why I have him on this summit. And I really learned a lot personally from his information, and definitely want to. First off, if you're interested, get the All Access Pass. Amazing information in that, but also check out Brady's great work as well. He's all over YouTube. He's got to the point instruction. It's really fantastic at daily tennis lessons. So him and Mark do a really great job. And Brady, any last words of wisdom before we adjourn for this time?
Well, I get out on the courts, everybody. I'm itching to go. I'm probably going to get a few hours in this week, and then looking to bulk up the hours going forward. But coming into the right time of year to get out there and practice and hit a ton of balls, and no better feeling in tennis than ripping a huge forehand. So practice makes perfect.
That's right. It's been my bread and butter for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like you've got a huge one too. So, Brady, thanks again, and thank you everybody. I'm really glad that you all enjoyed it, and we've got a lot more in store for you this week. So definitely just keep enjoying the summit. So, Brady, thanks again. All the best, and I will see you soon.
Keep up the good work, Maribon. Great to see everybody today.
Thanks. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.